Hello, everybody. We're back again today in our series of looking at the Beatles albums in consecutive order. I'm here with Sam St. John. We've done, 10, I guess 10 so far, and this is number 11. I believe that's right. Of course, the big one, Sam's favorite Beatles album, Abbey Road, with that classic cover, just like Sergeant Pepper and Rubber Soul. They came up with some brilliant covers back in the day, still stand up today. It's one of the coolest covers with them walking the street and the different garb on. There's all kinds of stories behind that, as we all know. Abbey Road was the street where the EMI studios were in London, and later changed to Abbey Road Studios. And this is the last album they recorded, although they released it prior to Let It Be. So just a few tidbits for folks out there. Sam, I know that this album is way up on your list of all, not only Beatles, but all-time great albums. So opening comments before we dig in.
Yeah, this one was tough to do just because of that purpose. And this is one where really the album itself is the way that you need to listen to this is as an album. I mean, it had the big singles, it has Something and Here Comes the Sun and Come Together. Those were huge hits, number one hits. But we all know, of course, the majesty of the second side and the Beatles suite. It's perfectly put together. Some might say that there might be a song or two that didn't belong on it, which they can say for any Beatles album. But yeah, like you said, it's my second favorite album of all time. It's my favorite Beatles album. It's just, I was fortunate back in 2016 to go to Abbey Road in London when I was in college, and walked across the street. It's not in sight. I wish I would have brought it down, but I've got a canvas on my wall of the picture of me and some friends crossing it. And when we did it, we were somehow exactly in perfect sync with their feet, even down to how Paul is leading with his right foot and everybody's leading with their left. Somehow it worked out where just the way that the camera shot, that's how the picture ended up. So that's really cool. It's probably, I was talking before we started recording that though it's my second favorite album, it's probably my most played album, simply because I've known it longer than my favorite album is Pet Sounds, but I've known this album longer than Pet Sounds, and I've listened to it in every which way. It's a perfect album to me. I mean, I don't think there's a flaw in it. With that being said, obviously we have to rank 17 songs, because the way that we are doing it is we're separating, unfortunately, which pains me, separating the suite at the end as an individual track, and that actually maybe in a way made it a little bit easier, because it's a very difficult album to rank.
It's quite possibly the hardest one. I thought Magical Mystery Tour was tough, but then when you start looking at this with all the individual little fragments and segments, and it's nearly impossible. So anybody out there that takes ranking, looks down on it a little bit, it's a fun exercise. We enjoy doing it, and it's not all that serious. It's just how we feel at the moment. These songs stack up, bottom line. And somebody's got to be 17 and somebody's got to be 1. That's just the way it is. There's no tie.
Pick your favorites.
Right, we're not going to tie 17 songs for number 1. It's not going to happen. So like we usually do, Sam's going to go first. We're going to alternate back and forth, worst to best. I shouldn't say the word worst because people get offended.
There's not a bad one. There's not
17 down to 1. That's what we're going to do.
Yep.
Your time to open it up, Sam. What do you got at 17?
All right. Well, I'm not going to go with the cliche answer, which everybody probably thinks is number 17, because it's not my number 17. My number 17, I know it was just mentioned by Larry Graves. Shout out to him. That's his favorite on the album. That's I Want You, She's So Heavy. It's my number 17.
Wow. Come out of the gate punching, man. I love it.
I'm coming out, making them log off this video really quick. So
nice
those of you
Larry, you just check
we'll see you. Yeah, I'll check my subscriptions later and see if I'm down 1 subscriber or a few. But again, I mentioned on couple of the other videos, how I came across the Beatles, was for their deeper cuts anyway, was the Rock Band game that came out in 2009 ish. And this song was on there, and it was really cool because I had no idea that the Beatles were that, heavy, to use the song's title. Obviously at this point, you had groups like Led Zeppelin coming out, some Deep Purple and stuff like that, the heavy, even Sabbath were starting to come out at this point, 1969. And I think this was kind of a way of staying current, with some of those heavy blues / heavy metal, dark rock groups. It's probably one of John's heaviest rockers, I would say.
Yeah.
Hardly any lyrics in it. It's just this repetition of I want you so bad, it's driving me mad. And then that long, like the kind of acid finish, the boom. It kind of reminds you of Dazed and Confused a little bit by Zeppelin. And maybe that's why I don't like it so much, because though I love Zeppelin and those kinds of groups, that's not the music that I always come back to. I have to be in a good mood for it, and just like I Want You, I have to be in a certain mood to listen to it stand alone. But it's a really cool way of how it ends off. It ends off the first side of the record, just with that stop at the end.
Yeah.
And then obviously you flip the record over and it's Here Comes the Sun, which is like, whoa, completely different. But
Yep.
yeah, it's number 17. The other 16 I enjoy more. So sorry, folks.
I haven't been.
But I'm not sorry. I want to apologize.
You can't be sorry. You got to stick with it. So
right.
My number 17 is Sun King, part of the medley or the suite on the side 2. I think this is, I don't know, just not the best part of that sequence. Obviously, just John's song. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's happy, and it's got that Spanish "Cuando para mucho," whatever it is, and I don't even know what that means. I should have looked it up. You know what it means? Because I don't.
No, and I'm not even sure if it. I don't think it means anything. I think it was like they were throwing all the Spanish words that they knew. I think that's the story I've heard, and I might be wrong on that, but
yeah, I don't know. I had to wreck something last, like I said. It separately, that's where I'm going with 17. Although in when I listen to the album as a whole, it doesn't throw me off, because I'm not going to skip it. Let's put it that way. But it is 17.
Number 16 for me is the hidden track at the end, Her Majesty. I love the song. I would have probably ranked it higher if it were a longer song, even if it were just a minute or so. It's just a fun little Paul McCartney acoustic little ditty that they tagged on to the end after the song to the end. There's like some dead space on the record before you finally get to the song. So I'm sure people, when they first heard it, missed the song, or if they didn't look at the record closely to see the small ring of grooves that were left.
Right.
But we all know, at least Beatles fans know, it was originally intended to belong in the medley on the second side, but they kind of just decided to cut it, that it just didn't really work. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to hear it too on the remix, the new remastered, of how they fit it back into the medley, and you kind of get a taste of what it could have sounded like had it been on the album. But yeah, just because of its brevity, it's number 16, but I sing it all the time. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I like it too. 23 seconds or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 23 seconds. Yeah. My number 16 is Mean Mr. Mustard, another John tune. Kind of bizarre song about a guy who sleeps in a hole in the road. Such a mean old man, such a dirty old man. He's got a sister Pam, and that song follows this in sequence. It's just this song's a setup for the next tune, so they flow together, but neither one of them is a standout for me. So 16, Mean Mr. Mustard.
Let's see, 15 for me is the song Carry That Weight, which is toward the end of the song during that final The Golden Slumbers medley.
Yep.
I don't know, it's just repetition. Again, I'm ranking this as a standalone track with the whole suite at the end. It all works perfectly. And I remember specifically, and I don't remember a lot of times the first time that I heard an album, but I remember the first time that I heard this. And when Carry That Weight came on and they kind of brought back the refrain from "You Never Give Me Your Money," I remember I was just completely blown away, thinking like, all right, I know this album is on a completely other, like a completely different plane.
Yeah.
So it was just, I don't know, it's something about it, just with them all chanting. You have Ringo, who's also doing some vocals in it as well. It's all four of them singing the track.
Yeah.
Probably just one of my least favorites. Actually, I guess it would be my least favorite song in the whole medley, because I mean the other songs aren't in the 17 and 16. So my first medley song is Carry That Weight.
Yeah, I happen to like that one. I like all four of them singing together. So I'm gonna have that a little bit later. My number 15 is Polythene Pam. Again, right after Me, Mr. Mustard. I'm getting rid of these songs that are back to back to back. Not much to say. Evidently, it's about a groupie decked up in a plastic outfit with the boots. Perverted sex is the theme. I don't know. Musically, it doesn't. It's okay. It's kind of raced together, the lyrics. Da 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 da. The way they phrase it, it's kind of sped up a little bit, but not my favorite. 15.
14 for me. You mentioned it earlier, is Sun King. Again, I know a lot of people on some lists, this is one of the lower Beatles songs, I think, because of the Spanish lyrics, and just it's very trippy, just how they're all just dragging their voices out, like you said, everybody's happy, but they don't sound happy when they're singing it.
Right.
It's kind of got like that weird, and this is really like the main start of the medley. This is like, I guess, the first song of that medley. You have like the it kind of sounds like you're in like a swamp. You hear the crickets and the everything chirping, and you have that doom 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 doom. Just a really slow. They're not rushing to get to the verses. I really enjoy the song, but again, it kind of it's funny that they have two songs about the sun on this album. They have Here Comes the Sun, which comes a few songs prior, and then this song, because obviously the first line is Here Comes the Sun King, and it's like it's the same first line to an extent. So not much more to say, just a little too trippy for me.
14 for me is She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, the Paul.
Wow, knocking all those out.
Yep, I'm knocking them out for a bit. This will probably be the last one I'm knocking out for a while. Inspired by a female fan who found a ladder and climbed up to the Paul's bathroom window. And all these songs, like we said, are all short in length, and they're part of a bigger entity, little fragments. I love the Joe Cocker version too, the cover. But actually, I think I heard the Joe Cocker version before I even heard the album version of the Beatles when it came out, because Joe Cocker had a semi-hit with that. But later, when I got into the album, saw it was on there. It's a shortened version. It's not the whole song, but all right, number 14. So those are my worst parts of the suite. I have a couple of little ditties a little bit higher than you do.
That's interesting. 13 for me. I alluded to it earlier. It's You Never Give Me Your Money.
Mm-hmm.
I love the piano intro. I love how it changes tempos, and Paul kind of goes into his Lady Madonna voice. Out of college, money spent, seen the future.
I like that.
And then you got the boogie woogie piano at that point. It's like doom 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 doom, and then his voice is so good too. One sweet dream came true. It's like he put together a few different songs that he had been working on.
Yep.
And then again, I love how it's alluded to later on by Carry That Weight. But yeah, it's an okay song. By itself, and the context of the full album, you need it obviously so that Carry That Weight would work as strongly as it does.
Right.
So Not one of my favorite Paul tracks, but it's my second Paul track now that I've mentioned after Her Majesty. So it's number 13.
My number 13 is Maxwell Silverhammer. It's upbeat, it's fun, but it's got the dark tone, he's going around clocking people. It prevents Abbey Road from being a 10 out of 10 for me. I'd rather listen to the suite than this, but there's parts of the suite that I elevate above this. It's split. It's kind of hard to divvy this thing up. And Ringo was quoted as saying it's the worst song they ever recorded. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think it's god awful, but it's not a real strong tune for me. Maxwell Silverhammer.
There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension around it, kind of like Obla Di Obla Da, like a lot of takes of it.
Yeah.
Just, that strain that the Beatles were already experiencing in 1969. I mean, we saw that in Get Back, which
Absolutely.
was, January of this year. And a lot of these songs were making appearances during those sessions. But
right.
Yeah, I get it. Number 12 for me, again, to keep on with it, Maxwell Silverhammer. Kind of the same reasons. I love the mallet. I mean, we got to see Mal Evans playing that on the Get Back session, which was really cool, of him sitting down. Like, what, you could see how excited he was, waiting for his cue to hit the hammer. Right. And I think there's a line too where John says something like, we need to get Mal's instrument or something like that, talking, because the anvil sat there for the sessions because they weren't sure that song was going to make Let It Be or not. But yeah, it's a fun song, dark. I love the the do 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 do, and then I love how Paul at the end's kind of like going like oh 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 oh, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then it just ends down to down and down plank. I love how it ends like that.
Yeah.
So cool. And I mean, I always associate it with the where it falls in the album too, because you have that, and then you have the the strum of Oh Darling right after it. So the whole album, again, all the songs work for me. So it's difficult for me to put them out of order than they are on the album, because that's where they belong. But anyway, I digress. That's number 12.
Yeah, this is a different dimension ranking these songs because of exactly what you just said. My number 12 is Octopus's Garden. Ringo, cute song, like a kid song, sort of. Ringo excels at the kid songs. And the Beatles, towards the end of their career, they have Yellow Submarine all together now, and Octopus's Garden. They seem to throw one of these in once in a while, which is fine. It's pleasant. I was watching, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel last week. Ringo was on, and he talked about this song. He talked about he was on a boat with Peter Sellers, and they ordered fish and chips, and he got squid, and it led to a story about how the octopuses get caught in the bottom there, and they're picking up stones, and they build gardens. And he put this together in a rare songwriting effort by Ringo. So Octopus's Garden at number 12.
Which, to talk about that for a minute, let's just diverge for just a second to how Ringo looks these days. The guy looks fantastic.
I couldn't believe, what's he, 81 or 2?
He'll be 82 in July.
He does look fantastic.
And I said the hair dye works for him. I mean, some people can't pull it off, but he looks good.
He could pass for mid-60s, easy.
Yeah, he looks like he did, in the 70s when he was rocking the beard, and the hair.
Yeah, did you watch that show that night, or did you happen to catch it?
I rewatched it on YouTube the next day.
He's very entertaining. I just like his whole persona.
He's so little, and he's so animated, and just fit, and he's just so cool.
He is.
Yeah. So, number 11, you mentioned it a few songs back. Mean Mr. Mustard. One of those songs where John actually changed the lyrics so that it could, match up with Polythene Pam. I can't think off the top of my head. He had another name besides Pam in the song, but they recorded, Polythene Pam, and they said, oh, well, maybe we should change the name to Pam. So that was kind of neat how they made it to make it fluid for the album. Great drumming on it. Such a dirty old man, like you said. It's a good song. Not a whole lot to say about it. It works with the whole medley at the end. So that's number 11 for me.
Yep. Number 11 for me is one you had, Her Majesty. A little finger picking acoustic guitar there. The hidden track comes 14 seconds of silence after the song prior to it ends. So you think, the album's over. You went through all that. And I just like Paul's vocal. I think he did this himself. He didn't have any help, right? This is all Paul.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the guitar picking is so good. How there's playing the bass notes, and like he's a killer acoustic guitar player.
Yeah, and just the way there's not much to it, 23 seconds, but Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl. Someday I'm going to make her mine. It's like a tongue-in-cheek kind of lyric. Cool.
Like I said, you can picture it because the way it ends, it kind of goes doom doom. It kind of ends, and then it's supposed to go right into Polythene Pam, when it was originally placed. And then once you know that, you're like, of course it could have gone before Polythene Pam,
Yeah, that's right.
All right, top 10.
Yep.
Number 10 for me, you just mentioned it, Octopus's Garden by Ringo. Again, fun song, and one of the best moments from Get Back as well, the movie. I know we keep talking about that, at least I do.
Yeah.
Just that really nice moment where George is showing Ringo, like maybe your chord change should go here. And so I'm sure that George had a lot more to do with that song than, it's written as a Richard Starkey tune, but I'm sure George had a little bit more to do with it, but probably told Ringo to, don't put my name on it. But it's a great song. I love the guitar, the and then I love the end, how it just goes. It's like kind of a country feel, like
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's such a counterbalance off of that into I Want You, She's So Heavy, which is the next song.
Yeah.
I mean, you have I Want You between, Octopus's Garden and then Here Comes the Sun. So
yeah,
again, sequencing is everything, and I think it works, to lighten the mood before you're going to go into this dark space with this song to then get relifted again.
Right.
So it's great. Ringo still plays it. It's a fun little effort on his part. So it's number 10. Like I've said before, most of Ringo's stuff kind of go right there into the meat of things.
Yep. My number 10 is The End. I love the drums on this by Ringo. He's banging away on them. Mostly an instrumental, heavy on the guitars. There's a little couplet at the end. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. That was a line that was changed too. But good way to end the record until, of course, Her Majesty comes in 14 seconds later. But I love it. Top 10 for me. I even though it's small and stuff, I put it over some of the bigger songs that I didn't care as much about. So,
all right, number 9 for me is the song Because, which is again another prime example of the Beatles harmonies, and
yeah,
it's beautiful. Just the high harmony. I think George is hitting that high note. Is round. It's just a beautiful song. People might think it's weird, just the intro with like the harpsichord kind of sound, and
I love that part.
It's a beautiful song. And the Beatles, and I think the way that they did it was with the recording, they did it in a way so it sounded like dozens of their voices.
Yeah.
So they just kept overlapping. I think they were just going like a slight pitch over the next thing to make it just this full sound. And yeah, it's almost, it's smack dab in the middle there. It's number 9 for me.
I have it at 9 also, exactly at 9. I love the harpsichord intro and the 3-part harmonies. They're all singing and, like you said, overlapped. It's very layered. The lyrics, they're kind of idealistic, a little bit hazy, druggy. Because the world is round, it turns me on. Because the wind is high, blows my mind. So you can interpret that a little bit, what they've been smoking or doing.
It's very John.
Very John. And it sets the tone for them. It's the first song of the medley, right? So it sets the tone for what's to come.
Yeah.
And, the different styles that are going to come. It's like a patchwork quilt and it all works together. So it's solid for me. Number 9.
Number 8 for me is Polythene Pam. I love the heavy strumming of the guitars at the beginning. How it just
Yeah.
starts. And like I said, originally it was supposed to come after Her Majesty, but that bow 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 now. It's just, I love it. Just great. Like the lyrics are fun. She's Killer Diller when she's dressed to the hilt.
Yeah,
You could say she was attractively built.
I like that line too.
It's a great song. It's John's humor in it, but the instrumentation, the music on all this album is so well produced. I mean, George Martin, what a true example of being the fifth Beatle he was by being this album.
Yeah.
Just the production behind it, and yeah, Polythene Pam. I remember I used to rock to that song. Like you said, Joe Cocker has a killer version, which I forgot about till you mentioned it earlier. But that is a great version, and yeah, it's just a great song. And at the end, they kind of go like, what do they say? Throw us to the hounds or something, and then they say, "Oh, look out!" It's just it's a fun song. I love it to death. But
very good. My number 8 is "Oh Darling." What an incredible vocal here, "Soulful" by Paul. It sounds like old school R&B to me, and then he's got that spoken thing in there. "Believe me, darling," he just shows his versatility. But I couldn't rank it any higher than that. That's just where it fell. Solid, real good. "Oh Darling," please believe me.
all right, well, I will say at this point we're really getting into the core of the album here. So be prepared for some hearts to break as I'm about to make this number 7 pick.
I'm cringing.
Number 7. What's that?
I'm cringing.
Okay, it'll be okay. We'll get through it together.
Yeah.
Number 7 for me is "Here Comes the Sun."
Oh.
Yeah. Again, possibly George's greatest song. Though obviously I have one of his other songs ranked a little bit higher, and on certain lists, it's definitely considered the greatest George song, or sometimes considered the greatest Beatles song. Beautiful acoustic playing. It's a perfect counterbalance to "I Want You," which closes side 1. This opens up side B. Beautiful. The harmony is beautiful. George's voice is great, and the high harmony, "Sun, sun, sun, here it comes."
Yep.
It's all kind of revolving around the D shape of a guitar chord. Just it's a beautiful song. Emotion got in the way of, I guess, ranking this a little bit higher, just because it's played all the time. I think for a long time, I don't know if it still is, because I don't do streaming for music, but I know on Apple it was the most streamed Beatles song, if not one of the most streamed songs ever. I know Spotify, I think it's one of the top Beatles songs that streamed. I mean, it's in every commercial, every promotion about the Beatles. It's in all the books. So I mean, it's synonymous with the Beatles. If you had to pick a George song, this might be the one that you pick. Actually, probably possibly his 2 greatest compositions are on this album. So this one ranks a tad lower than the other one that he's got, but it's my number 7 today.
My number 7, 6, and 5 are what I have left of the side B here. Number 7, "You Never Give Me Your Money." You talked about it earlier. The piano opening I love. There's a couple of different guitar solos in this one too that are cool. And I think he's pointing at Alan Klein, their manager, about the financial troubles, the lack of trust. You never give me my money. You only give me your funny papers, and in the middle of negotiations, you break down. One sweet dream came true today, and then it's got that weird part in the middle, like nursery rhyme. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's just comes out of nowhere, and it's cool, and it's not its own song. It's part of this song. So, and there's different melodies within the same song here. Heavy guitar playing behind them if you listen closely. So number 7 for me, "You Never Give Me Your Money."
Number 6 for me is "She Came In Through the Bathroom Window."
Ooh.
It's a high one. I love the guitar in it. the it's fantastic musically.
Yeah.
The whole didn't anybody tell her, didn't anybody see? Sunday's got a phone to Monday, Tuesday's on the phone with me. It's great. She said she'd always been a dancer, worked at 15 clubs a day. I love the line too. She could steal, but she could not rob. It's a fun lyric. I love the guitars in the song. Plus, it's kind of the end of the first part of the medley. Because this is actually a true ending to this song. It doesn't go directly into the Golden Slumbers medley,
Right.
which closes the album. So it's number 6, simply really because of the guitar playing in it. I love the music in it.
And McCartney, I guess, uses a lot of the similar theme to Lady Madonna with the Sunday and the Monday and the Tuesday, because he does that in there too.
Yeah.
So that was part of his writing scheme at that time or whatever. Because
Lady Madonna was just the year before, even.
And it works on both songs. It works. My number, what are we? 6? 6 is Golden Slumbers. Love it. Could have been higher, but chose to go with that number 6. Beautiful. Once There Was a Way to Get Back Homeward. Starts out gentle and McCartney showing his voice, and then he comes out with that Golden Slumbers, Fill Your Eyes, and he's bellowing it, sort of hitting the notes. Do Not Cry and I Will Sing a Lullaby. It's got a lot of different changes within it, and for what, 1 minute and 31 or 1 minute and 31 seconds. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Love it.
It's my number 5. So it did correct the top 5 for me. From what I understand, it was Paul was sitting at a piano, and the lullaby Golden Slumbers was on the piano, and he couldn't read music, so he was just kind of making up the music to it and singing some of the lyrics. So it's kind of a full Beatles composition, kind of a cover-ish. That's an old lullaby. But yeah, like you said, his voice, how he just billows that, which goes against the whole lullaby aspect of it, because he's got that smiles awake you when you and even now, it's so cool. He closes a lot of his concerts with the Golden Slumbers medley, because obviously he'll end on the end. And it's just a great McCartney vocal. I love the piano. It was one that I listened to a lot when I had this, like when I used to listen to an iPod, which I don't anymore. I would listen to that song a lot of times by itself, just because I loved it so much. So I did, every now and then I would break that song up off the medley, which is probably why it landed so high, is because I would listen to it as a standalone, especially when I was, finding the songs I wanted to listen to on my iPod, on trips or wherever I was. So
yeah,
it's a killer song. I love it. Love it. Love it.
It is. My number 5 is the one that flows right into it. That's Carry That Weight. I really like the four voices together in the chorus. It's a beautiful, flawless back-to-back. Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight. My favorite part of the medley really is those 2 songs back to back like that. So that's why I have it so high at number 5.
I do love for Carry That Weight too. Going back to that, how they do the little tag from You Never Giving Your Money, and then it goes like that, bum, boom, boom, bum, bum, and then it goes back into Carry That Weight.
Yeah,
just really, really well done how that makes the album flow together. I do like that a lot. All right, number 4 is the second George Harrison composition on the album. That's Something. Frank Sinatra is famous for saying it was his favorite Beatles song.
right.
I think the joke was that he said it was his favorite Lennon McCartney song. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think he did cover it as well. And of course, Paul McCartney covers it to this day. He'd sing it at the concert for George on the ukulele that George gave him, and that's still kind of the arrangement he uses. Just one of the it's often listed on one, like, the list of like the greatest love songs ever written.
Yeah.
And I know that there was that they were at this point they had hired James Taylor to join on for Apple Records, and George loved the lyric of something in the way she moves me. He used that lyric too, so it was kind of like promoting his record company essentially, because he was using a James Taylor line on the opening track, which for years I always thought it was James Taylor copying the Beatles, but it was the other way around.
I did too.
Yeah, it was the other way around. So and I mean, the James Taylor song is obviously called "Something in the Way She Moves."
That's a great
She
song.
moves me, excuse me. Yeah, but it's killer. But that guitar is famous in itself. If that was just the song, George would be on a pedestal, because it's the guitar is very melodic, and that, like I said, that could have been the song. And I have heard guitarists do instrumental versions of it. I think Jeff Beck might have done a version of it instrumentally.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect song. It's one of George's best. I would probably say it's probably possibly my second favorite George song after "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." So it's number 4 on this list.
My number 4 is one that was your number 17. That's "I Want You, She's So Heavy."
Wow.
I mean, it's the longest song on the album, I guess, 7 minutes, 47 seconds. Definitely elements of metal in this. It's very heavy. The abrupt ending is strange, but you got Billy Preston on here on the Hammond organ as well. It's just a heavy, heavy song. And George is killing it on some of these guitar licks. It's a real jam. So I enjoy it. It stands out as one of their heavier songs. It could have easily fit on the White Album for me. The style of it.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, it's like Your Blues or anything like that.
Yeah,
could have gone with that.
I think it might have worked better on that, but what can I say? Top 3.
All right, top 3. Here we go. And surprisingly, in my top 3 is a song from the medley, and that's "The End." I think just because of its perfect placement, it's probably the most perfect placement of a song on any album ever recorded.
Yeah.
Obviously, they tacked on Her Majesty at the end, but the Beatles intended this to be really the ending of the album. And just to harken back to our "Please Please Me" video, I think I mentioned this, that it's very fitting that Paul McCartney opened the Beatles' career with "I Saw Her Standing There," and he closes it with "The End," with the tag, "and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make." Just that's a very Beatles line, and again, it's one that it's on, you find it everywhere. It's on posters, t-shirts that are all related to the Beatles or not related to the Beatles. I'm sure people know that line by itself, even if they don't know that song.
Yeah.
Because I mean, "The End" wasn't a hit. It wasn't like "Something" or "Here Comes the Sun," but perfect ending to an album. I love the isolated drum solo from Ringo, who famously said he doesn't enjoy drum solos. Just kind of channeling some a milder John Bonham. So
Yeah.
I love the bass drum is just, he's on fire on it, and it puts Ringo top notch caliber. And obviously, to mention the Who, very similar solo to "Won't Get Fooled Again" with Keith Moon, who really goes wild on it. But it's just a great song, perfect ending to the record.
Yeah, I love it. The Ringo drums are just absolutely outstanding. That's the one.
And on the remix, it sounds fantastic on the 2019.
When I listened to it yesterday, I was focusing in on that. He was all over it. So great one.
What version were you listening to?
I was listening to the 2000. What's the one in 2009?
2009.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep. My number 3 is "Come Together." Big hit. Just obscure lyrics, counterculture, LSD, whatever you want to say. Evidently, it was conceived as a campaign slogan for Timothy Leary, who was running for governor of California. Of course, he didn't make it, but "Come Together." John and Yoko were doing that bed-in thing, and these lyrics are just out there. Yeah, "Here Come Old Flat Top," "Juju Eyeball," "Toe Jam Football." I don't know where he got this stuff. "Walrus Gumboot." I mean, just throwing words together that are just out there. But yet, when you play the song and you learn the different lyrics and stuff, you sing along, and it's like what the hell you're talking about. But it's just incredible. I prefer this way over the Aerosmith or Run MDC or whatever that hit was later in the 80s. Run DMC.
Yeah, Aerosmith did it by themselves. They did "Walk This Way."
That's what I'm talking about.
Run DMC did "Walk This Way," but Aerosmith did do "Come Together" for the Sgt. Pepper album, right?
And it's not bad, but it can't compare to the Beatles.
It's not bad. No, it's one of the better covers.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me, Come Together.
Wow.
Again, overplayed. Yeah. You turn on the Beatles radio on satellite, you're gonna hear the song. That the bass playing is iconic. The shoot me, don't shoot me.
Yeah.
And obviously, a lot of the lyrics were taken from a Chuck Berry song, which they ended up kind of having to settle out of court with Chuck Berry's estate for the song. What was it, Little Queenie? I think it was the song where he says, "Here come on flat top, here come Holy Roller."
Right.
That's straight Chuck Berry. And I think from what Paul McCartney says, because obviously we don't have Lennon to give us his side, but from what McCartney says, when John presented the song, he had it more as like a Chuck Berry pace. And they said, that they were like, well, John, that's Chuck Berry. We can't, that's a Chuck Berry. That's his rhythm. So, they collaborated and Paul came up with that bass line, which is iconic. Probably Paul's most famous bass line, which again, that's arguable too, but it's the one that stands out the most. And it's a killer opening to the record. It's a shame that the Beatles couldn't stay together and keep playing that song.
Absolutely. My top 2, they're both George songs. Which one am I going to go with? That's the question here. My number 2 is Something. Straightforward love song. Great opening line, like you mentioned. I always thought it was James Taylor stealing the George line, but it's the other way around. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other love. I mean, come on. You're asking me, will my love grow? I don't know. It's like emphasizing what's the strength of the relation. I don't know. Stick around, it may show. Covered by thousands. A great guitar solo here by George as well. It's one of the Beatles' best love ballads, bottom line, and shows up at number 2 on my ranking.
That's where I thought you were going to go. So I was correct in what your number 1's going to be.
Yep.
Mentally, I didn't say it, but number 1 for me, probably the surprise of the whole thing is "Oh Darling."
Wow, that is a surprise. I know you love Paul's voice and what he can do with it, but that really surprises me. That's a great pick.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's solely his voice and just that killer opening chord, the bling. Yeah, and I love the 50s R&B style of it. The dun 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 dun. It sounds like something like "Put Your Head on My Shoulder" almost, something like that. Like that era, the medley. The melody. Excuse me. I keep saying medley for this album because there's a medley to it. And I think it was one of those songs he kind of like Twist and Shout. They kind of waited for his voice to go raw before they really nailed the final pick. And I think he was doing this late, early into the morning, and he did a ton of tracks. And I think he was fighting a cold and all sorts of factors that played in. Obviously, they were all smoking at this point, so I'm sure cigarettes helped a little bit on the raspiness of his voice. Yeah, but just the last vocal note where he says like, "I'll never do you no harm," like he really gets up there. Yeah. And then how it ends, the blow blow, and then kind of like the piano kind of like tinks out on the higher end there, and it's always been a favorite. I listened to the song over and over and over again when I first got the album. I thought it was so good. I thought I'd never heard Paul's voice sound like that, because if I remember correctly, also, I didn't mention this at the beginning, this is the first true Beatles album that I bought that wasn't a compilation. So again, it's got that aspect to it. So when I first heard "Oh Darling," I'd never heard Paul's voice sound like that raw. And it's my favorite track. I wasn't sure it was going to be this time, but I was, after thinking about it, I said, yeah, that's probably forever going to be my favorite on the album.
Very good. And of course, my number 1 is "Here Comes the Sun." Just iconic guitar opening, that acoustic guitar, just beautiful, positive, optimistic. Not only looking at the upcoming day, but the future. It's just a bright, optimistic song. Orchestra in the background, you got cellos, violas, and piccolos, everything but the kitchen sink. So it fills out the song. I just love it to death. another one that's been covered by some folks like Richie Havens did a song the following year. Great cover, but different style. But nothing can touch the Beatles. Here Comes the Sun. Like you said, it's overplayed. It's on classic rock, every 3 hours or whatever. I mean, it's just the way it is. Commercials, but that's not going to bother me. The song stands alone as a classic, so I'm going to put it at number one. I don't think there was any doubt what my number one was. My 1, 2, and 3, I went with the biggies, and then I filled in after that with the different parts in the medley I like the best at the top, and then some of the middling songs. I like "Oh Darling" a lot. I'm not going to even argue with about the vocal. It's fantastic. It's a great Paul vocal, and it's just a little bit further down on my list. So
Yeah.
Another great album. I'm sure we're going to take some heat for breaking up the medley and picking out individual songs, but
Yeah, please,
spare us the details, if you will. Or I'd like to see anybody else try it out there. I mean, a lot of people have been ranking these songs in the comments with us and doing, a great job of it. And we appreciate that. I'd like to see you try and rank these 17 songs and just see where you're going to put little things like The End and Her Majesty and Polythene Pam and all these great little additions that have to be
blurbs. Yeah. That was probably one of the bigger surprises for me, was that you had Her Majesty like 4 or 5 songs in. And honestly, probably in terms of enjoyment, mine's probably about where yours is, but I guess I took that from a different perspective, because I do sing that song a lot.
Where did I have it exactly? I forget.
And I think this is probably our most diverse. Yeah, 11th.
Yeah.
Because we only agreed on Because. I think this was our most diverse list.
It was, and especially near the top, we were going in a little bit different direction, but that's fine.
Good.
It's a tough album to do.
Let It Be will be interesting.
Let It Be will be. It's coming up next. Only 12 songs on there, I think we mentioned.
Yeah, and 2 of them are little blurbs.
Minute. Yeah, so that was easier for me to do than this. Although I have to say that Let It Be, after watching the Get Back documentary, some of my song rankings changed than they used to be, because I saw how hard they were working on some of those songs, and they're on the rooftop, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into play on why you change your rankings.
Yeah. Right.
That's just the way I looked at it anyway. You may have had a different take, but it was cool. Anyway, can't wait to do that one. That's up next. Then we'll have to figure out, we're going to get into the past masters too down the road. That'll be a challenge as well. They're loaded for bear, man. There's a lot of stuff in there.
A lot of number one hits.
A lot of big hits, and we could be all over the place there. It depends on individual styles and what hits us at the moment, that type of thing. So please sure to check out Sam St. John. Right now he's running a contest. Go over, subscribe, do his contest if you haven't. He's got great support. He was pushing for 300. What's the latest number, Sam?
The 320s somewhere.
320 somewhere. So he's done very well. And why not go to 400 and beyond? So check him out. Americana, Beatles right now, but he likes Van Morrison. He likes Tom Petty and Bob Dylan and John Prine. All great music. He likes some of the newer stuff like the Avett Brothers and things like that. So check his channel out. Subscribe to him. We will be back in a few days, let's say, with Let It Be. In the meantime, leave us comments, like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hate to plug myself, but I'm going to anyway.
No, please.
And it's good for the ego. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody out there, have a good one. We appreciate everybody that's watched this whole series. Maybe you're caught in the middle and you want to go back and check it out. All these things are going to be in the description below. There's a link. So if you want to start out at the beginning and follow along with us, we really appreciate that. So for Sam St. John, this is Rich. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye.